Don't send Atlas away. Milo planted both feet between the black transport van and Atlas, the Labrador trained to interrupt his panic attacks. Two guards tightened the lead, but Atlas did not fight. He only pressed his nose against the boy's trembling wrist. Across the yard, Desmond raised his torn navy cuff. "That dog bit me." Damien held the removal order, one signature away from separating them. Wren Calloway took the sleeve, turned it toward the stable light, and froze. "Don't sign that," she said. "That tear doesn't look like a dog bite." Wren guided Desmond beneath the stable awning and turned the cuff toward the light. She did not touch the scrape. That belonged to a physician. The cloth, however, told its own limited story. A dog's bite through heavy wool usually left paired pressure points, crushed fibers, or curved punctures where the canine teeth closed. Desmond's sleeve showed none of those. The fabric had stretched in one direction before splitting, as though something narrow had been pulled through it. "I can't tell you what caused this yet," Wren said, "but I don't see enough to call it a bite." One of the security men shifted beside the van. Desmond did not become angry. His disappointment looked almost paternal. "If you are wrong, Milo pays for it." Damien read the incident report again. At the bottom waited the signature that would authorize Atlas's immediate removal. "The dog stays on the property for 24 hours, he decided. "Separate kennel. No contact without Wren." Milo reached for his father's sleeve, but Damien was already facing Desmond. "Tomorrow at noon," Desmond said, "the trustees review whether this home is safe for my sister's child. If you refuse the standard protocol, they can place Milo under emergency joint guardianship." The quiet threat somehow felt heavier. Wren had seen frightened dogs bite without warning, and she refused to confuse calm behavior with innocence. Still, cloth did not change its damage pattern to protect an animal. Damien finally looked down at his son. "You have one day," he told Wren. "No," Wren replied. "Milo has one day. I'm only the person who knows how to ask Atlas what he was doing." Inside the training barn, Wren removed Atlas's ordinary leash and clipped on a long practice line. Milo sat on a green bench, whose paint had been worn smooth at one corner by his thumb. "Show me the wrist task," Wren said. Milo tapped twice against his palm. Atlas crossed the mat, touched his nose to the boy's wrist, then turned toward the bench. It was not affection disguised as medicine. It was a trained interruption, followed by a route to a quieter place. Damien watched from the doorway as though learning the rules of a room inside his own home. Wren examined the harness. Beneath the handle was an empty ring. "Where is the red retrieval tab?" Milo looked at the floor. "It was there this morning." The braided tab gave Atlas something safe to take and pull when Milo dropped his small canvas pouch or needed help opening the lightweight training door. 2 short whistle notes had once been used as the retrieval cue. "Did you hear the whistle?" Wren asked. Milo nodded. 2 notes, then the gate sound. Desmond appeared with the estate system log in his hand. "The gate ran a test at the same time. That may be your answer." Wren looked at the empty ring again. It was a plausible answer, and that troubled her more than an obvious lie would have. If the old cue had survived beneath newer training, the fault might lead back to her. An independent veterinary examiner arrived before dusk. She checked Atlas's mouth, measured the distance between his canine teeth, and examined the coat without offering an opinion about Desmond's scrape. The conclusion was narrow but decisive. The damage to the wool did not match Atlas's dentition. No paired impressions, no crushed arc, no sign that his jaws had closed around the cuff. Atlas had not bitten the coat. Desmond stood beside the examination table and accepted the finding without argument. Then, perhaps the fabric caught on his harness. That still means the training failed. Wren lifted the cuff toward a work lamp. A few bright red nylon fibers clung to the torn seam. "This didn't catch on the harness," she said. "Atlas pulled something through your sleeve." Milo looked at the empty ring on the dog's vest. The first answer had arrived, but it opened a worse question. If Atlas had been retrieving the missing red tab, how had it reached Desmond's cuff? Damien ordered the transport van away. Atlas would remain on the estate overnight, though still separated from Milo. Desmond's calm expression tightened. He recovered quickly and asked the examiner to put every finding in writing. His willingness to preserve the evidence made Wren question her suspicion rather than trust it. If you believe children deserve to be heard, stay with Milo. Wren returned to the green bench and sat far enough away that the boy did not feel surrounded. Damien remained standing until she pointed to the other end of the bench. He hesitated, then sat. "Tell us only what you remember," Wren said. "You don't have to explain it." Milo rubbed the smooth corner of the wood. Atlas looked at Uncle Desmond's hand. There were 2 notes. He ran over. Then I heard the gate. "Which sound came first?" Damien asked. Milo's throat tightened. Wren waited. Atlas was not beside him to interrupt the rising panic. Damien started to repeat the question, then stopped himself. "The whistle," Milo whispered at last. "I think the whistle came first." Desmond entered the barn. He did not challenge the boy. "Stress changes the order of memory," he said gently. "We should not make him carry this case for us." It sounded deeply compassionate. Milo looked at his uncle, then at the closed quarantine door. Whatever else he remembered remained trapped between those 2 loyalties. Desmond spent the next hour helping Wren rather than resisting her. He brought the gate log, the kennel inventory, and the schedule of every handler who had entered the yard. He even asked the estate attorney to delay filing the final incident report until morning. The system log recorded a gate test at 11:17, within the same minute as the alleged attack. Wren stared at the timestamp and felt an old professional fear return. Years earlier, she had retired the 2-note whistle because several electronic alarms used a similar interval. Atlas had since learned hand cues and spoken commands, but the whistle response had never been completely erased. A familiar sound could still draw his attention to the red tab. "If the gate triggered him, that's my failure," she said. Desmond rested both hands on the stable rail. "Call it an accident. I will withdraw the word attack. Atlas can go to a good facility. Your certification remains untouched, and Milo does not have to watch adults tear each other apart." There was no threat in his voice. He was offering her the cleanest exit. Damien looked through the glass toward the quarantine stall. Atlas lay with his head on his paws, facing the door that led back to Milo. "The trustees don't care whether the dog meant harm," Desmond continued. "They care whether this house can manage risk. Sign the relocation order before the hearing, and I won't request immediate custody." Wren understood why the proposal appealed to Damien. He could keep his son, avoid a public dispute, and send a dog to a comfortable facility instead of a pound. Every visible problem would disappear. Only Milo would know what had been taken from him. "I need to inspect the gate speaker," Wren said. "At this hour?" Damien asked. "At the hour somebody is hoping we stop asking questions." Desmond gave her the maintenance keys himself. At the equipment cabinet, Wren found the hook where the retired whistle should have hung, and the tray that normally held 2 spare red tabs. 1 tab remained, the other space was empty, but the inventory still listed a complete pair. Missing equipment proved access, not intent. She checked the signing sheet. Desmond's name appeared that morning beside the words "monthly safety review." Beneath it were 2 handlers and a stable worker. Any of them could have moved the tab. The clean exit Desmond offered remained possible. So did a deliberate setup. Atlas remained in the quarantine stall, while Milo tried to sleep in a room above the barn office. Shortly after midnight, his breathing quickened. He began counting the diamond shapes in the wire window, losing his place each time voices passed outside. Damien entered and reached for him. Milo recoiled. "Look at me," Damien ordered. "You're safe." The words made the boy's hands shake harder. Wren stepped between them without touching either one. "Ask before you come closer." Damien's jaw tightened. Men waited for his decisions across an entire city, yet his own son needed a question he did not know how to ask. "Can I sit beside you?" Milo gave a small nod. Wren showed Damien the 2 palm taps. He copied them clumsily, then guided Milo toward the green bench instead of pulling him there. The panic slowly became manageable again. Desmond stayed outside the doorway. "Your mother hated being crowded too," he said. "She once locked me outside a shed for 3 hours because I wouldn't stop giving advice." Milo almost smiled. Desmond loved the boy. Wren could see that plainly. Whatever was happening, it was not driven by indifference. Later, he handed Damien the unsigned relocation order. "This can end tonight," he said. "Keep your son. Let the dog go." Damien stared at the signature line. 14 months earlier, after Elena's funeral, he had promised Milo that no decision about Atlas would be made without him. The promise had been easy when nobody challenged it. Now the estate attorney warned that refusing relocation could be presented as reckless parenting. Damien could command armed men, move money across borders, and close every gate on the property. None of that gave him control over a trust written by his late wife. He carried the order upstairs, but left the pen behind. At the window, Milo resumed counting the wire diamonds. Damien sat close enough to be present and far enough not to crowd him. The boy reached 43, lost his place, and began again. "I don't know how to do what Atlas does," Damien admitted. Milo did not look at him. "You could learn." The answer hurt more than accusation would have. Damien did not sign. He stayed until Milo's breathing settled, following instead of commanding. Damien paused at each wrist tap and followed Milo toward the bench. For the first time, he entered Milo's routine as a participant, not an authority. Near dawn, Milo asked for paper. He drew a rough rectangle for Desmond's sleeve and a red line disappearing into the cuff. "Atlas looked here," he said, touching the red line. "Not at Uncle Desmond's arm." "Did you see the tab?" Wren asked. "Only a little." Then Uncle Desmond moved. Damien's expression hardened, but Wren lifted a hand. "That tells us what Atlas saw. It doesn't tell us how the tab got there." Milo added 2 small marks beside the sleeve. "The whistle was close," he said. "The gate was far." Damien almost asked whether Desmond had blown it. This time he caught himself. "Is there anything else you want us to know?" Milo shook his head. Then, after a long pause, he wrote, "I don't want Uncle Desmond taken away either." Milo was not hiding the truth to protect Atlas alone. He feared that choosing one person he loved would cost him another. Wren folded the drawing and returned it to him. "Then we find the truth without making you choose." Outside, the first maintenance crew arrived at the gate. Damien asked why Milo had not described the red strap earlier. "Uncle Desmond said the trustees don't listen to scared children," Milo replied. "He said if I got anything wrong, Atlas would disappear faster." Wren watched Damien absorb the sentence. Anger came first, visible in the tightening of his hands, then shame. Desmond's warning had worked because Milo already believed powerful adults valued perfect testimony over frightened truth. "You do not have to remember perfectly," Damien said. "Tell me what you know, and tell me when you don't know. Both matter." Milo studied his father, as though testing whether the rule would survive the next difficult question. "I know Atlas didn't look angry," he said. "I don't know why Uncle Desmond had the red thing." That distinction gave Wren more confidence in his account. The boy was not constructing certainty to please them. The yellow tag on the speaker read, "Power isolated, 6A, M, do not reconnect before inspection." Wren called the maintenance supervisor from the number printed below it. The speaker had been disconnected 5 hours before the alleged bite because rainwater had entered the casing. The control system could still record a test signal, but the unit could not produce sound. The gate had been silent. Desmond read the work order twice. Then one of the handlers may have carried a whistle. "Possibly," Wren said. He met her gaze. "You thought it was me before you walked over here. I thought your explanation was wrong. Those are not the same thing." Irritation surfaced, then vanished. The accident theory had collapsed without identifying who produced the cue. Several estate handlers used whistles. The brass one on Desmond's watch chain could make many sounds, and possessing it proved nothing. A car entered through the side road. An unnamed trust representative had arrived 2 hours early with a sealed notice. Desmond had requested an emergency review, citing Damien's refusal to remove Atlas. Damien read the first page and crushed it in his fist. "You said noon." "I said the trustees would meet at noon," Desmond replied. "The safety order begins when their representative arrives. Atlas would be transferred within 90 minutes unless Damien accepted temporary joint guardianship." Desmond placed a pen beside the order. "You can hate me later. Sign now and Milo stays with both of us." The representative requested written proof that Atlas remained contained. Desmond offered to escort him to the quarantine stall, then stopped when Milo entered the passage. "You should be resting," he told the boy. "You said the gate made the sound." Desmond's face softened. That was the most likely explanation. But it didn't. Then we find another one. He spoke like the uncle who had brought Milo books, remembered his food dislikes, and sat through silent dinners after Elena died. That history made the lie difficult to see clearly. Men without love rarely still carried the child's favorite gloves in their pockets. Desmond did. Wren asked the maintenance crew whether a portable tester could have produced the sound. They confirmed that their unit emitted a low, continuous tone, not two short notes. The list of innocent explanations narrowed again. Damien refused the pen. Desmond did not threaten him. He only moved it closer. "Pride is not custody," he said. Damien pushed the document back. "Neither is fear." The trust representative requested the damaged coat for the evidence packet. Desmond removed it and handed it to Wren himself. "If you are going to accuse me," he said, "do it with something stronger than a silent speaker." Wren laid the coat across the examination table. She checked the outer tier, then slid 2 fingers into the cuff lining, where the red fibers had collected. Something resisted near the inner seam. Wren checked again. She turned the lining outward. A short length of braided red nylon fell onto the table, still caught in a knot of navy wool. Milo's missing retrieval tab. Damien moved toward Desmond. Wren stepped between them. "Not yet." Desmond did not retreat. "The tab being in my sleeve proves the dog pulled it. We already know that. It does not prove I put it there." He was right. Wren threaded the fragment through the empty ring on Atlas's harness. The color, weave, and broken end aligned with the remaining fibers. Atlas immediately focused on it, then looked toward Wren for a cue. "This was not random contact," she said. "Someone presented a trained target." The kennel inventory showed that the full tab and a retired cue whistle had been stored in the equipment cabinet. The access sheet carried 6 signatures from the previous week. On the morning of the incident, Desmond had signed it out for a safety inspection. 2 handlers had entered later, but neither had taken equipment. Desmond folded his shirt sleeves once. "I inspect that cabinet every month." "Then you knew exactly what was inside," Damien said. Still, knowledge was not proof of use. Wren picked up Milo's drawing. "We need to reconstruct the action." Before she could prepare the yard, the trust representative sealed Atlas's kennel and posted a transfer notice on the door. "I never wanted him sent to a pound." "A comfortable separation is a separation," Wren replied. She examined the brass whistle on his chain. The metal was worn smooth where fingers had held it for years. Desmond said it had belonged to Elena when she volunteered at an animal shelter. That explained why he carried it, and why he knew how to produce the cue. It did not prove he had done so that morning. Damien requested a delay for reconstruction. The representative gave them less than an hour. Wren needed a demonstration that respected Milo, protected Atlas, and showed behavior without pretending behavior alone could identify a liar. Damien refused at first. He would not place Milo near another confrontation, and he would not turn his son into evidence for men who had already ignored him. Milo heard the argument from the green bench. "I want to do it," he said. Every adult stopped speaking. Wren crouched several feet away. "You can change your mind at any point. Atlas will be on a long line, and nobody will touch you." Milo nodded. The trust representative gave them 40 minutes before the transfer order took effect. Wren prepared a padded coat, an identical red tab, and the retired hand cue. She refused to let anyone call the demonstration a test of Atlas's goodness. It would show only what behavior a known cue produced. Before they entered the yard, Desmond asked Damien for a private word in the tack room. Wren remained outside with Milo, but their voices carried through the half-open door. "Elena asked you to leave this life," Desmond said. "She asked before Milo was born, and again after the first threat arrived at the house. You promised her you would build something safer. Instead, you built higher walls. I built walls because threats arrived. And now your son needs a dog to feel safe crossing his own hallway." The cruelty of the sentence came from fear, not contempt. Damien answered more quietly. "Atlas helps him. That is not the same as weakness. Dependence becomes a target. You know that better than anyone." Desmond's fingers closed around the photograph inside his wallet, though he did not remove it. Wren had seen the picture once before. Desmond and Elena as teenagers beside a muddy shelter dog. He had spent most of his adult life cleaning up the danger surrounding his sister's marriage. After her death, Milo was the only promise he had left. That history did not excuse deception. It explained why Desmond could look at cruelty and call it protection. The trust representative brought in the joint guardianship form. Desmond placed it before Damien. Sign, and I withdraw the dangerous animal complaint. Milo keeps Atlas after they move to my house. The offer changed the apparent purpose of the scheme. Desmond did not want the dog gone forever. He wanted control of the child, and the dog incident gave him the legal lever. Damien looked toward Milo. Is that what you want? Milo shook his head. Desmond's face tightened. He is 10. He cannot understand what this family will ask him to become. Then stop asking him to become it, Wren said. The words landed on Damien, not Desmond. For years, Damien had treated Milo's future leadership as a fact. Tutors, security drills, formal dinners, protected routes. He had never asked whether the boy wanted any of it. The transfer driver opened the rear door of the van outside. Milo stood, took the red tab from Wren, and walked toward the yard. Show them, he said. Wren stopped him at the threshold. You are not responsible for making the adults believe you. The demonstration supports your account. It does not replace it. I know. And if you want it stopped? Milo closed his fist around the tab. I say stop. Damien heard the exchange. He repeated the word as a promise. Stop means stop. Desmond looked away. For the first time, his certainty seemed less like strength than something he was using to hold himself upright. Outside, the handler put on the padded coat. Wren checked the line twice and removed every loose object that Atlas might mistake for a target. She asked the representative to stand beside the gate rather than inside the working area. Nothing about the scene resembled a tribunal. It was a training yard, a dog, a child, and 4 adults who had each confused protection with control in a different way. Atlas entered the training yard on a long line. Wren clipped the red tab through the padded sleeve worn by an estate handler, leaving the braided end visible. Milo stood beside Damien at the green bench. Desmond remained near the gate, the brass whistle hanging from his watch chain. Wren gave 2 short notes on the retired whistle. Atlas crossed the grass, took only the red tab between his front teeth, and pulled backward until it slid free. He never closed his jaws around the sleeve. Once the tab came loose, he carried it directly to Milo and released it into the boy's hand. Wren repeated the exercise without the tab. The same 2 notes made Atlas search the cuff, then return without touching the handler. He was retrieving a target, she said, not attacking a person. The trust representative examined the original torn cuff. The fragment recovered from its lining, the disconnected speaker report, and the cabinet sheet bearing Desmond's signature. Desmond still had one defense. Someone else could have taken the equipment after his inspection. Milo stepped forward. Uncle Desmond whistled, he said. Atlas pulled the red strap. Then Uncle Desmond pulled his arm and made the hole bigger. He told me if I said anything, they would take Atlas because nobody believes scared children. Desmond closed his eyes. He removed the brass whistle from his chain and placed it on the rail. I needed one recorded failure, he said. One event the trustees could not ignore. I thought I could get him out before this life swallowed him too. Damien's men waited for an order. Desmond seemed ready for punishment. Damien gave none. He tore the joint guardianship form in half, then signed a different instruction removing Desmond's authority over Milo's trust and safety decisions. Any future visits would be supervised and would happen only if Milo wanted them. Then Damien addressed the rule beneath the entire conflict. Milo will not be designated my successor. Not at 10. Not because our fathers wrote it down. When he is grown, he chooses his own life. Desmond looked at his nephew. Grief pulled through his composure. I was trying to keep my promise to your mother. Milo held the red tab against his chest. You should have asked me. Atlas crossed the final distance and pressed his nose against Milo's wrist. The transfer order was withdrawn. Desmond reached toward Milo, then stopped before touching him. May I say goodbye? Milo looked at Damien. His father did not answer for him. Not today, Milo said. Desmond accepted the decision with a single nod. The trust representative led him toward the office to sign the suspension of his authority. No guards dragged him away. No one pretended his love had erased what he had done. Wren unclipped the long line. Atlas remained beside Milo until the boy gave a release cue, then crossed to Damien and sat at his feet. Damien had spent years believing loyalty meant obedience. The dog looked up at him, waiting without fear, and exposed the difference. "I almost signed," Damien told Milo. "I know. I was afraid they would take you." Milo ran the red braid through his fingers. "I was afraid you would let them take Atlas so they wouldn't take me." Damien lowered himself until they were eye to eye. "I won't ask you to pay for staying with me." It was not a promise that danger would disappear. It was a promise that Milo would no longer be treated as the price of managing it. At sunrise, the van was gone. Mist rested over the training yard, and the damaged Navy coat remained sealed with the trust records. Damien sat beside Milo on the green bench. Atlas waited several feet away, watching both of them. Damien lifted one hand, ready to call the dog. Then he lowered it. "Show me," he said. Milo tapped twice against his palm. Atlas walked forward, touched his nose to the boy's wrist, and turned toward the bench. Damien shifted aside instead of directing him. The Labrador settled between father and son and rested his head across both their knees. Milo leaned against his father, and Damien stayed still enough for the trust to settle there. Wren picked up her dented teal thermos from the fence post. She did not offer a lesson or ask what came next. She simply closed the training gate behind her. At the road, she heard one soft laugh from the bench. She kept walking and let it belong to them. For once, Damien Ashworth issued no order. He waited until Milo was ready and listened.